Job search tips. Beating the barriers. Most contracts, in fact 82%, go through an agency, and you therefore need to speak to the right person in order to help you. Now, most agents are very busy people. They take up to 50 calls a day, and unfortunately when you ring, you're bound to be ringing at the most inconvenient or the wrong time, and there will be a number of gatekeepers trying to protect the agent and allow him to get on, or her to get on with their job. So you need to know how to get past those gatekeepers. Firstly, use the tools that are available to you to research out the client company and the agency and find out about them. This would firstly be the company website. Use Google to look at the activity with the company, any news, press agencies such as Reuters, even go to company's house. But you need to make the effort and find out about both the agency and client and use the information you gain to your benefit. The second thing is you need a database or a spreadsheet, stroke CRM system, which can record the information you get and record every key contact point that you make with your target contact. This will also allow you to concentrate on talking to the person and relaxing with some information from the previous calls all at your fingertips and making you look very, very professional. And you'll also find that a pattern will emerge which will actually show when it is really efficient, when is the best time to try and contact people. And you'll find that changes over the days of the week and the times of the year. Most importantly, you need to actually use the right telephone technique and adopt the right tactics over the phone. Now, you're going to have gatekeepers in the form of receptionists, secretaries, some colleagues, and even the boss. Often the phone system is used as an excuse to avoid putting you through to your target contact. And many occasions you'll get asked, do you want to go through to voicemail? Whatever you do, don't go straight through to voicemail. Try and contact someone else first, and if you can, talk to them, and very importantly, see if they have a company database and whether you are able, or they are able, to access it with your details. And then once you've completed that, ask when the target contact is available, and certainly then leave a voicemail if you can. When you're talking to one of these gatekeepers, keep the request very simple and easy. Therefore it will be time efficient and they are likely to respond to you. Explain, for example, the purpose of your call. The reason you're ringing is that you've sent your CV and you want to see whether George, the end client, whoever he is, has actually received your CV. Above all, sound confident. You know, when you're talking to people, you've got to be upbeat and you've got to actually make them feel that you're interested in them. Suggest that you were actually recommended to speak to them by another contact. I'm not asking you to lie here. If you can find someone who genuinely said you need to speak to George, then use their name. You're far more likely to get put through. Understand that your target contact, particularly if he's an agent, is probably receiving 50 calls a day from candidates like yourself. Now, for that reason, you have to be incredibly upbeat and be very memorable. Otherwise, how is he going to remember, or she remember, that you've actually rang? Be a relator. Be someone who's interested in people, and therefore, if you use those relator skills, they in return will ultimately become interested in you. To help make that happen, above all, you have to be memorable. Is there anything about you that's actually interesting? Is there a hook that you could hang your hat on? Something about you. Maybe it may be your name or your background. More probably it'd be something you've done in your in your past. Maybe something very positive and interesting. It may be some charity work you've done, or it may be something funny that fits in and is appropriate to what you are currently doing within your job search. But the most important thing is to be remembered. Remember, in life there's only one thing worse than being talked about, and that's not being talked about. Examples of how to get past the gatekeeper. Well, ring firstly when the gatekeeper isn't working. For example, between 8 and 9 in the morning, or maybe later on after 5:30, or perhaps over lunch between 1 and 2, when people are far more likely to put you straight through to your contact. Also, ring when the contact is most likely to be putting you through or directly receiving the call. For example, between 4 and 6 p.m. is often designated as a candidate contact time. And I'd say a time to definitely avoid is typically 10:30 on a Monday morning to about 11:30, when most organisations are in meetings. Ask them if they have access to the database. If yes, update your record. Add an email address. Say you've had problems with your email and you want to add a new email address. Ask also, while you're on, whether they could just check on something for you. If you were supposedly sent down to the client, i.e. British Airways, you could ask them just to have a quick look to see, in fact, whether or not you were sent to British Airways. Do name drop a contact's name. If you can, and they work in their circle, you could basically get put through on the basis that they have seen that you've been previously approached by them and been dealing with them. Explain that you rang yesterday, and for example, George asked you to ring him back at 10:30 today. I would only use that ploy if it was quite genuine, but you can manufacture that quite easily when you ring people and someone's not available, and say when's a good time to ring him, and you can say, I was then told to ring at 10:30 a.m. today. When asked what it's about, explain it's about a vacancy. This may not actually be checked whether it's a client vacancy or a candidate vacancy, as to whether you are the candidate or the client, and with the word vacancy you could get put through straight away. If previously unsuccessful in trying to contact someone, state you called and were asked to ring back, and that is why you are ringing at this time at 9:56, and you're trying to make sure that you don't let George down. Actually, specific times are allocated to actually send or deal with CVs, and for example, between 10 and 12 a.m. is not a good time to actually send a CV or to ask for record updates. If you were previously unsuccessful, record the details and state that you called and you asked to ring back, which is why you're ringing at the time of 9:56, the exact time you were asked to ring. There is state a specific time you sent your CV in. So for referencing purposes, tell them if you sent your CV in at 10:12 a.m. and not recently, or not a while ago, or not a couple of hours ago. Be very specific about the time. It helps them search out and find the CV, and be able to very, very clearly and simply state your email address so they can reference you. Above all, be determined. Don't be worried about failure. You've started with nothing, so you've got nothing to lose. So try and see it as a bit of a game and enjoy it. That way you'll sound confident and people will be interested in you. Remember, people buy winners, not losers.